Hi guys, today I'll be showcasing you guys how to rig any kind of character, creature, four-legged, bipedal, quadrupeds in Blender using RIgify. I also have a handy little cheat sheet that I have so that you guys can reference them whenever you need and what each module, RIgify module does what essentially. So take a look at that as well when you have some time. But moving on to today, I'll be using a demo file that I created of myself. We're gonna go and rig this up. So the first thing we're gonna do is make a new collection actually, because we need to separate our stuff very nicely. So for example, we're gonna right click, make a collection, press F2 to rename it to rig. And then we're going to make everything in there, and then afterwards we need to make sure we enable have this plugin enabled. So type in RIgify. If this doesn't show up, you might have to download it on the web these days. If you're using 4.3, you very likely have to download it online, or it might be it might be built in, who knows. I just have it enabled from default, and then afterwards you'll be able to follow along. So the first thing we want to do here is press Shift A and go under armature, and we don't want to go to where it says RIgify and stuff. We want to actually have full control of this, so we're just going to add a single bone, and then we're going to go to edit mode and delete that bone. After that, we can go to this little skeleton figure. We might want to turn on a few handy shortcuts actually before we do anything else, such as we want to show the bone, maybe viewport display. We might want to put it in front just so we can see what we're doing with our bone. I'll just enable it just to show you, and then after that we want to scroll down to where it says samples. This is where the most important one is, and we want to add we're going to go find limbs arm. It's going to be small because my guy is big. I didn't make this guy into proportion, so my guy is completely huge. After you import it, import the hand in, just move it up using the normal hotkeys and just position it like so. So for example, that might be a little bit something like this. And then make sure you get the last one, it goes really small. Maybe I'll move this one first because it's a little bit too small to make it bigger. So we go from the wrist, hand, like so. And then we look at it at the top view, it doesn't do it. Press L for a good hotkey for moving that along. Then just keep on checking it in all views and just place it into the correct position. Quick tip for these arms and legs is to give it a slight bend so the IK knows how it wants to form, and just to make sure everything is in place. Because this is going to be a simple rig, I'm not going to worry about these all of these hands will be driven by this one bone. However, if you want to include other stuff, you can add in other like basic chains and other stuff into this so that it basically essentially works. And then after that we want to put in our legs, so limbs leg, and we want to probably scale this up. We want to move it into place, not scale it up, and then afterwards make sure everything is in position. Making sure that we get this little bone over here is really important, as that is the IK bone. To help Blender understand certain things about the legs and how it wants to and once again check in all positions to see if this guy is in the correct position. Enable transparency mode with over here, or wireframe mode, whatever you need to help you adjust your bones so they're in the roughly the correct position. And don't forget about the IK bones over here. After that we need to put the head in. So I mean not the head, the spine. So there's a few ways we can go about this. We can literally search for it. If you can't find it, there's a spine. The sample, it goes down here. I'm going to use the basic spine for this and press G to go up. And then now I'm just going to look at it sideways and move it and spread these bones out so that it does the spine stuff, making sure to keep that nice archy curve along the way. Ooh. Make sure you don't select your previous limbs as well. Something like that. And then we can fine tune them a little bit. Cool, once you're happy with that, I'm going to use the super head for the heads, which comes with neck. I'm going to press GZ, making sure that I'm also making sure you're in orthographic view whilst you're doing this, or your bone will go everywhere. Is really important. So I'm going to go and spread these, put the first bone into position, highlight these guys like so, and keep on dragging them out like so. And this one is probably the biggest one, so this one, let's get him right at the top. Something similar to that. Cool. Hopefully that is good. Now the next step is to parent everything to each other. As you can see, they are not connected at the moment. The thing you can do to connect them is parent them or create more bone chains, but this will if you don't need the extra bone chains, it's better to actually just parent them, and you only need the bone chains if you need to import the bones into like another software essentially. So it's best to just parent them, as it saves a lot of data. So how to parent is you want to select what you're parenting. So I want to parent these two legs or thighs to the ends of this body. So I'm going to select these two leg bones, and then lastly click the thing I want to parent to. So and press Control P and keep offset. I'm going to do the same with these two. So I'm going to select both of these arms first and then this bone and press Control P offset. And then the last thing, I'm going to connect the neck to the spinal cord, and that's it. As you can see, you've done it when the dots are dotting. And at this point, you can actually generate the rig. So if you want to quickly generate the rig, so if I press generate, you get an error. All you have to do is go to this where it says UI row and just increase it by 1, and now you can generate a rig. Now this is what you get: some weird layer over here, which just says WGTS armature. That's all the data and information that you get from generating this using RIgify. And then you have the armature, which is what you created yourself, and also the rig, the actual controllers for your rig with all the IKs and everything initiated. So that's really good. If you ever make a mistake or need to change anything, add more bones, you always go back to the one that says armature with no rig, and then you can just update. For example, go to edit mode, update all of this, and generate again. But I'm not going to do that because it's good right now. So if you ever want to do that, but the problem is we only have over here we have two. If we press N, if you don't have this window up, we only see bones and root layer. So we only can hide or show these two things, which is really, it gets cumbersome to animate because you have all of these controllers around, and sometimes you only need a few. Sometimes you like it, sometimes you don't, but I'll show you guys how to organize it. So to organize it, I'm just going to disable the visibility on our rig armature to get back onto this guy, and I'm going to go to pose mode now. If you don't have the settings where you have a dial on, in other tutorials I'll show you guys, but just to show you guys, you can go to edit preferences and go to navigation, go to key maps, enable it, or you can go up to this top menu to go to it. But what you want to do is press A to select everything, press M, or actually you want to press Alt Shift M and click on this minus bones, so they're all are taken out of that bones. And now afterwards you want to select the certain bones and press Shift M to add a new bone collection here, and we're going to name this one called head, and so on. So for example, this one will be left arm, it's his left. We want to name things in terms of his position. Right arm, be careful with your selection here. And make sure you also press Shift M every time. Spine. And lastly, when you select this one, make sure you click the IK symbol as well. We'll go left leg. And this one, it's kind of hard to see. Shift M, right leg. Sweet. And then afterwards we want to scroll down on this tab and we want to go to where it says UI layout. It might take some time to get there, but you'll find it eventually. And then this is where we will generate our we generate our rig UI. So if I click on the head and put it in with this left click, I'm trying to recreate something similar. So I'm going to put the left arm in, right arm in to the same area. I'm going to press the plus button to add another row. This is where I'm going to put the spine in, and then left leg in and right leg in. So now if I were to look at the rig UI again, this should allow me to see and regenerate. Sorry, if I regenerate now, regenerate rig, this should allow us to toggle on certain parts of the rig so that we can see the bones and the controllers associated with that area, which is really useful. We have to do one extra step of cleanup by clicking on the original armature and going to edit mode. We need to make bone collections for the tweaker bones and the FK bones, as sometimes it's easier to animate in FK and sometimes it's easier to animate in IK. I'll get on to that once we start animating. And also tweakers, so we can actually kind of adjust it, the mesh a little bit so that the pose, if there's any deformities in the pose, we can quickly do minor tweaks with those bones to get the right kind of deformation we want. So what we want to do here is go to click the original armature in thingy mode, and we want to add a new bone collection. And in this new bone collection, I want to call this FK collection. And then I want to add a tweaker collection as well. So double click tweaker. And then afterwards, we want to go and go to pose mode, and we want to select each bone and go to this little bone tab, and we can actually assign the FK collection here. So we can go, for example, assign FK collection here, and we can go and find the FK collection, and the same thing for the tweaker. And then we can do this for every single bone that is a main bone with IK and FK and IKs, which will be the other arm next door. So we can go press the plus, press the FK and tweaker, and do the same thing for the left arm and the tweaker. Next arm, FK, tweaker. And then that should do it. But before we go back, let's just put this in the UI collection, as we have two little things left. We need to add a row, and I'm going to put them in the same column like so. And I'm happy now. The next step is to actually, the rig works, but nothing's connected to it, as you can see. So we need to actually put the parent the models, or weight the model into that bones. So how I modeled my thing is, if I select this and select objects, this will if I click on the model collection and go right click and select object, this will allow me to select the object. And then if I press and hold control, this will also select the rig. You want to select the models first, the mesh, and then you want to select the rig armature, not the armature. You want to select the rig armature that you generated and press Control P, and you get this option called with automatic weights, and that should do most of the work for you. And now we can hide the original armature that we created, so we have a little bit more space, and we can go ahead and try out the rig and see where there is any deformities. So we want to select the rig and go to pose mode. So a few top tips whilst we're doing this, just to show you around. This is the IK bone. This is where you can do all like your stuff, and you press R to rotate the arm and other stuff. You can put in you go back to the original position. If you set the position like that, sometimes you want to go back to original, you hold Alt G or Alt R depending on what rotation that you use. But this is looking great. It is working great, stretching great, working great. And then there's a bone here, like so. If any of these are, if you're struggling to see any of these bones, you can actually scale them up a little bit. Not like that, sorry. Let me find. So under this like bone icon viewport display, you can make a custom shape, or you can just scale these guys up, just so you can get easier access to them. This doesn't affect anything, the movement. The other one does, but that's how you would go ahead and do that. But let me just show you around the rest of the rig, where you can use the tippy toes, rotate around there, do that. There are also some bones, like we mentioned before, that are here that are not very useful, such as the FK collection and the tweakers, which are not useful. You can hide whatever you don't need to use, for example. There's this bone, just play around, use G, R, S, stuff like, no, not S as much, but just G, R, S, and move them around. And just to show you guys how to switch from IK to FK, so if I turn on the FK, so right now this is IK, as you can see. If I switch this to IK, now we're in IK, this handle does not work anymore. However, these ones start moving, so we can do this, we can rotate it like that, and go from forward kinematics, which is very handy to animate, and I recommend doing it sometimes to get the right pose like that, so you can get the initial right pose. But typically people like to use IK, and you can also magnet towards each other. So those are a few things, and the legs have the same controls, etc. And here's the tweaker bones. So the tweaker bones, if I can select them, allows you just to edge them a little bit, stretch certain bones just so the deformation is correct. This is more prevalent on things like elbows. So if I were to bend this elbow, let me just get the IK selection back on. So I did a little bit of IK bone. This looks kind of correct, but you can just like kind of push it out just a little bit if you needed to make it just the correct correct kind of position or amount of bending that you want. Fortunately, this guy actually has been weighted very, very extremely well. There is not much deformities that I actually can see from this guy. However, if you want to improve your models, you might need to do some weight painting, so I will show you guys how to do that. So if I go back to object mode and go back to this skeletal tab, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, and what I want to do here is I want to hide everything here and only show the DEF bone, which is really important. This shows you the def bone, and what you want to do here is select the armature, and in my case we want to shift or control and shift right click, or actually this is going to be a little bit harder because how I modeled it, I have it separated out. But essentially what I want to do is select my objects first and then select the rig, and then I will want to go to weight paint mode, but that will not give me the option because you need to always select the rig first into the object. So what we can do here as like a cheat is select the body, select the rig first, and then whichever part is, and we can isolate the selection because just how I modeled it, just in separate little bits. And then we can go to weight paint mode and we can see what bone is affecting each bone. So if I were to hold control, that will just take away the paint. If I hold if I left click, that will just add more. Control and left click does negative, and then shift left click smooths out the thing. If I hold Alt and click around the bones, this will allow me to see what's being affected. So that looks pretty decent. This has actually done extremely good job. And what you want to do is for each bone, you kind of want to aka have something similar to this, where you have a red part and it smooths out as you go along it. Red part, this one's probably the worst one. And what I can do here is just paint it across like so. But before you do that, make sure you turn on the symmetry so that if once I do it on this side, it will mirror across. So if I make a little big gaping gap, as you can see, the big gaping gap shows up on the other side. But it's generally very, very good, and this is how you get some of the inconsistencies out. Typically what I like to do to check for everything is working properly is, for example, I would go and select the rig and certain parts of like the objects to see if any of these bones are affecting said bone. So none of this bone is actually affecting here, which is, I'm amazed that it did such a good job. But we can go ahead and just check everything just in case any bone is affecting a certain mesh or part of the body that it shouldn't be. So for example, I'm going to check if the arms is doing anything to the face, for example, which by holding Alt and clicking along the bones, it is not. So hurrah, it's done a good job. Once you're done with that, I'll show you guys how to go about animating. So what we want to do is turn off the deaf bones, and we want to turn on all the bones again. So we want to turn on from tweakers to bones, maybe tie the bones. And now we just need to click on, for example, click on the rig armature and go to pose mode, and we can now start animating. So there's a few ways to animate. You can just move let's just set some pose. So to start animating, just drag this up a little, the timeline up a little bit. There's also all these other timelines that you can use, like dope sheet, graph editor, drivers, but you always start off with this one to get your general pose in, and then you go into the other modes to set the speeds. But essentially you just go ahead and click on one of these objects, press I, which will set keyframes for everything. You can also press Shift I, or you can press I to set keyframe, and then afterwards you can also go to auto keying over here, and this means every time you move a little bit, this will put a keyframe automatically. The other hotkey to insert once you get more familiar with how to animate is actually K. Now on 4.3, it's usually it's on older versions it's I. I now just gives you a keyframe for everything. K allows you to insert certain things, so you can limit your things to location, rotation, scale, whatever you actually need, which is very handy, because if you just do this will give you loads of information, but you're not affecting the scale, and sometimes you're not even affecting rotation. So once you start editing on the graph editor, this will just have so much information that it's just really hard to edit, essentially. So it's best to keep it kind of you know, as minimal as possible, just to help your life out once you're animating. But essentially that is all there is to animating. You can press Alt I to delete all keyframes on that time as well, for example. And yeah, you just can have fun with animating. And this is the same thing using cameras and other things. But if you hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys want some help with this, let me know. And also another animation video, we can go more in depth into the animation area and I can showcase you guys more hotkeys essentially to do more cool animations. But what I like you guys want to see you guys try is give this guy a little bit of a walk animation. And yeah, and I'll see you guys next time.